Hello everybody, Jason from MTG.com, and today we are going to look at the current state of my filler collection. It has been a few years since my last video going over my filler collection, and it has grown quite a bit. So I figured it'd be really cool to show you guys all the new stuff, and I'll go over all the old stuff too, kind of make a complete filler overview video of everything that I have. But before I do that, I'm going to shamelessly plug an article on my website, on misprintedmtg.com. There is the filler ID list. This is a complete index of all the known existing fillers, and each filler has its own unique identifying code. So F1, F2, they're all broken down into different types and categories. These IDs will never change even when new fillers come out. So you could use these to refer to specific fillers and people will know exactly which filler you're talking about. While I have the filler ID list up, I'm also going to plug another website. It is the Librarities. The Librarities has a ton of really good information about all the fillers that are kind of out there. So you can see the front and back of each of the fillers, and in these little blurbs down there they have kind of the source and known population counts if that information is known. So this is a great place to find out information about fillers. My only gripes with it is that these numbers they change, they're not consistent, which is why I made the filler ID list. So between these two tools you should have everything you need to know about fillers. So let's go ahead and get into the filler collection. So we're going to start off with the most basic filler. It is the same. Actually, you know what? Before I get into fillers, well, at least my fillers, I'm going to go over the 4 elements that I use to categorize a filler. And I'll use this one here as an example. So the first element that I use to categorize fillers is the design of the filler. That is, in this case, a blank card with black borders and a normal magic back. Design includes both front and back, and that is the primary identifier for filler. The next is the cardstock that it's on. This is on the standard Magic cardstock. It's not foil on the front, it's not foil on the back, and it's got its standard blue core. As opposed to this filler here, which is foil on the front, non-foil on the back, but also has a standard blue core. Now the next element that I use to categorize fillers are stamps, if the filler is stamped or not. So in this case, it's got a rare holo stamp for a rare or mythic or promotional card. There's a bunch of different stamps that can include promotional stamps, in different holo stamps for different products, as you'll see as we kind of go through the various fillers in this collection. And last but not least is the size of the filler. In this case, it is a standard Magic card size, but there are also other size Magic products, such as the Commander Oversized cards, World's Smallest cards, and even things like Vanguard cards, but I don't think there are any known fillers from Vanguard. So that is how I identify fillers. So let's go through the collection. So standard black border, normal Magic back, one of the most common fillers. I don't think it is the most common filler anymore now that discard has been used so long in so many sets, but this is a classic. It is a goodie. This is like 101 of fillers. If you collect fillers, this is like goal number 1 in my opinion. It, of course, comes in foil as well. Standard Magic back. And the non-foil version has a holo stamp. Interestingly enough, the non-foil version with a holo stamp is fairly new as far as fillers are concerned. The foil version with a holo stamp has been around for a little while, but the non-foil version with a holo stamp has been something that's only popped up within like the last half a year or so. So these are actually rarer than the foil versions with the holo stamp. Now, as far as foil versions of the holo stamp, this is the average one that's out there. It is on normal Magic cardstock. and it has the normal foiling treatment. As opposed to this filler right here, which was the first all foil filler found with a hollow stamp. And you could actually see that there is a difference in the foiling on these. That's because this one is from the Vault's Angels, and this one is from Normal Magic products. So this is a great example to illustrate just the differences in cardstock and finishes and how we use that to differentiate between different types of fillers. Now, here is another filler, plain black borders, but you can actually see design-wise, completely different back. This is a Face the Hydra filler from a pre-release event. I think it was like a Face the Hydra deck or something. Standard black borders, but it's got this really cool back on it. These are extremely rare. There's only 3 known copies. Now, our borders fillers don't necessarily have to be solid borders. This one actually has some art borders on it. This is from a Battle for Zendikar product. I don't know exactly which one it's from, but you can see that its borders are actually the continuation of a full art card. Now, as far as our black borders are concerned, they don't always have to be black. It might be a little difficult to show up on camera. Maybe I'll grab one of our black border fillers here, but these are actually purple borders. This is from the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty set. Why these have purple borders, no one knows, but they look really cool. Now, we also have borders in silver. This is from one of the unsets. I always forget if it's unhinged or unglued. I always mix up the two. There are 2 different fillers between those 2 different products. Go to the libraries to find out which one is which, because I have forgotten about it right now. But you can see we have these nice metallic silver borders on this with a normal magic back. We've also got a gold border filler. Now, this is obviously from a Worlds deck. There are only 2 known copies of these, and they are awesome. Now, this isn't technically a filler. At least we don't think it is. We're not even really sure what it is. It was found in Simplified Chinese, I think, 5th edition boosters. It is a blank card with a red number on it. Now, it also comes in green and blue, so we have red, green, and blue versions of these cards. They look like fillers. We don't think that they are because the number ranges are like 1 to like 90 something on each of the respective colors. That information's on the libraries, but you know, they look like fillers, so I figured I'd show them off, and they're in the filler section of my binder because they look good there. So I figured I'd show them off here. Now, as opposed to full borders, we have partial border fillers. So we've got this thick, fat border on the top and right-hand side of the card with a normal magic back. We've got the right side border and bottom border thin with a normal magic back. And we also have that in foil. Interestingly enough, these 2 fillers, while they look really similar, are from entirely different products. This is not the foil version of this particular filler. This is like a Magister of Worth promo, and this is from the Planar Chaos Endless March deck. So 2 completely different eras of Magic. Very similar visual fillers, but you know, from completely different products. This is all foil with just the top black border, normal magic back, and here's one with the bottom black border, normal magic back. This one's actually really interesting as well because this is the only known copy of this particular filler. And that gets us into the barcode fillers. We've got the standard barcode filler with a black border and a normal magic back. All of these barcodes, they scan to say drop 3. What drop 3 means, no one actually knows. We assume it has to do with some sort of automatic collation, culling thing so that these get removed from production, but we don't know. They're just really cool. So here is the standard barcode filler. Here it is in foil, although that's not really showing up here. Let me see if I can get my flashlight going, get some of that foil effect going for you guys. No? Maybe? Okay, it doesn't really want to show up. It's not going to cooperate. But it's foil, take my word for it. Here it is with a non-foil and a holo stamp with a normal magic back. Interestingly enough, the foil version of this filler has not been found yet. So if you see a foil barcode with a holo stamp and a normal magic back, you have a new filler and you should contact one of the 3 major filler collectors. This guy here is the infamous Chiller filler. It has the drop 3 barcode with this really interesting back. It's got like these really light gray borders on the back and solid white back. One of the things that I find really interesting about the Chiller filler is when you compare it to a normal barcode filler, if you actually look at the corner of the white area, you can see that this is a rounded rectangle and this is just a regular hard-edged rectangle. What that tells me is that this white box that goes over this full art card was added right on top of the existing art card, as opposed to being a blank template file. This rectangle was drawn over this card and then the barcode was applied on top of it, as opposed to just having your templating be not present on the card. And I think that's really interesting, kind of gives us a little bit of history as far as like how exactly this filler was designed, and I think this is really cool. Here we have another barcode filler with a holo stamp, but you can see the back is actually non-magic back. It is a black border back. And here is another non-foil barcode with a black border back. Now this guy here is actually really cool. It is a small barcode filler, but it actually also scans to drop 3. This is actually extremely rare, as in this is the only known copy to exist. It has a normal magic back. When you compare that to the foil version of the same filler, this is actually more common. I believe that there are 3 or so copies of this particular filler and only 1 copy of this filler. So foil and non-foil doesn't necessarily denote rarity when it comes to the quantity of specific fillers. But these are still both really beautiful fillers, if you ask me. Now we have the black and gray bars, the long stripes. Now long, so pay attention to the length of these particular stripes here. This one has a normal magic back. I believe it is from Innistrad. Here's its foil counterpart, also with a normal magic back. Now, when I said pay attention to the length of that stripe, so here we have this foil filler with partial black borders on the right and bottom, but we can see we have black and gray bar on the back. How do we know this is the back? Well, one, foil is usually on the front of the card, so if one side's going to be foil, it's going to be the front and not necessarily the back. And 2, there are other examples that we could kind of base this off of, but notice how these black and gray bars are shorter than these. So every filler that has these short black and gray bars has these bars on the back of the card. So here it is in non-foil with our short black and gray bars. Now this one's really interesting. If you were to look at it, it just says, oh, this is just an Italian aurochs herd. Nothing, really cool or interesting about this, except when you turn it over to the back, there's our black and gray short bars. So this is another indicator showing us that the short bars are always on the back. Now, here's another interesting one where we have black borders on the front, and again, those short black and gray bars on the back. How do we know it's the back? Well, we are just going off of all those other filler examples that we have. Now, here's a solid black filler with a black border back. And here is a black border front with the black border back. Now we're starting to get into some of the more solid filler designs. This is the half black, half white filler, and there are actually 3 different versions of these. I think I go over this in my misprint masterclass video, which I'll try and do the YouTubey linky thing right up there, see if I can pull that off. But there are 3 different versions of this. Well, technically 4. I only have 3 of them. There is a non-foil version of these, and they all have different white underprinting layer treatments. So you can see here, this one has the black borders, and you can see a differentiation between the black here and the borders, as opposed to this one, which actually is the white side. You can see the white underprinting is more solid on this side, as opposed to no white underprinting here. But you could also see differentiation between the black side and black borders, as opposed to this version here, which has no white underprinting on the left side, but you can see no differentiation between the black side and the black borders. So that's all 3 versions of this particular filler. Now we have the solid white filler. Again, I'm going to refer you to my misprint masterclass video on fillers to learn about how to determine if your solid white card is unprinted cardstock or a actual filler. I go over that in detail, showing you the differences in surface treatment. But this is a really rare filler, really hard to find an actual filler copy. So this one is really cool, and I value this one pretty highly in my filler collection. Here we have a solid foil filler with a hollow stamp on it. This is a fairly new era filler, and I have an article on my website, and I think in the blog section, about identifying fake fillers. That article will cover how to differentiate the difference between a card like this and an acetoned wiped card. So this is an actual filler, but if you go on eBay and you see something like this, it's very likely that it is an acetone card. So be sure to check out that article to learn how to spot the difference. Now, here we have a solid black filler with a normal magic back. Here we have the foil version. Again, I'm going to refer you to my misprint masterclass video on how to tell if this is foil. Actually, see if I can get the foil effect showing. Yeah, there we go. You can see that iridescent sheen there. That's how you determine if this is a foil or not. So, normal magic back, foil black solid front. Now this is a really interesting card here. It is a solid black filler that has square corners. This is non-foil. And you'll notice that earlier when I was talking about how I classify fillers, I didn't necessarily mention corners on them, but there are fillers out there that have square corners. You'll notice on the librarities that these fillers with square corners are actually mentioned as different types of fillers. I personally don't count them as different types of fillers because design-wise and intent-wise, they are the same filler from the same sheet as the, for example, the round corner version of the non-foil solid black filler. This one has just gone through less production steps. Also, I believe, this is yet to be confirmed, my running theory on square corner fillers is that they have not been discovered in sealed product. They are directly from internal sources like printing facility people or Wizards of the Coast employees. So that is a valid source for fillers, but you know, it also tells me that this really isn't a different filler. It's just a different variant of an existing filler. Here we've got another solid filler, solid black on the front and solid black on the back. There are only 2 known copies of this particular filler. It's a fairly new filler, and it's really cool. Here is a solid black foil filler. It has a pre-release date stamp on it. It's supposed to be a Glory pre-release promo. So really cool. This is just one of those examples that shows how the stamping on it denotes it as a different type of filler, at least in my books. This is a really rare filler. I think there's only like 6 or so known copies out there. Now we have the foil shooting star filler. These are absolutely beautiful. But if you see them out there, make sure that you have solid provenance on its ownership history, because there are non-factory cut versions of this that are out there. So make sure that you can trace its ownership history to a legitimate source and that you're not buying an NFC. Normal Magic back. It also comes in square corners, and to my knowledge and talking to the NFC sheet shoppers, none of these were cut with square corners as far as non-factory cut versions. So you can be fairly confident, I wouldn't say 100% confident, but fairly confident that if you are acquiring a square corner version of the foil shooting star filler, that it is a legitimate copy. Now this filler here is solid metallic silver, and it is also from one of the unsets. I think this one is unhinged. Again, check the libraries for exact source. I don't remember off the top of my head, but this is a really beautiful filler. Sometimes it's difficult to see the difference between this and the black, but when you see it on camera next to each other, it's very clear. This is a very rare filler as well. That gets us into the discard fillers, our good old discards, probably the most common filler out there nowadays. So we have discard on the front and a normal Magic back. It comes in foil. Something really interesting about the differences between the foil and non-foil version is the orientation of the word discard. You see the discard on the non-foil version goes from the bottom up, and on the foil version goes from the top down. And we know the orientation because of the orientations of the backs. It also comes in a hollow stamp version. So here's non-foil with hollow stamp. Here is foil with hollow stamp. And again, that differentiation on the orientation of the word discard. Except for this one. This one decided to change up the formula. So this is a non-foil discard with a hollow stamp that is oriented in the foil orientation of discard. So it's not always consistent, but this one is extremely rare. I've only seen a few copies of this out there. Normally they follow the formula of orientation. Here is a different version of a discard with the Jace's Spellbook stamp, that little round hollow stamp at the bottom. So foil discard with the Jace's Spellbook stamp. Normal Magic pack, of course, like all the products from that particular product. Here we have another foil discard with the Universes Beyond stamp. So it's foil on the front, non-foil on the back, and Universes Beyond stamp on the bottom. I really like this one because I think the gold stamp contrasts very nicely with the solid black. Now here is a non-foil discard with a non-foil discard on the back. And here is its foil counterpart. So foil on the front, foil on the back, and again, discard in the orientation that we expected it into. Or maybe not, I don't know, there's no real way to actually tell with this particular one, but I'm just going to assume that it follows the formula. Here is a non-foil discard with a hollow stamp that has a discard on the back. These are pretty rare too. Actually, while I have this one out, the foil version, foil front, foil back, discard, this is the only known copy of this particular filler. There's a few more copies of this particular filler out there. Now, here we have a foil discard on the front, Universes Beyond hollow stamp on the front, and foil discard on the back. This is also the only known copy of this particular filler, but I figure as they continue to release Universes Beyond products that we will see more of these in the future. So this is the only known copy for now. Here is another new era filler. It is solid yellow, discard dividers, normal magic back. This is from the Heads I Win, Tails You Lose precon deck. One of the things that I find really interesting about this particular filler and its foil counterpart is that if you are very visually like observant, you'll see that this line of discard, like the orientation of this, it's not centered. There's less space over here and more space over here. So how did they position it? Well, if we hold up an actual discard to it, and I'm going to use this as a line, we could see that the bottom edge of discard dividers is justified with the positioning of discard on a normal discard filler. So I find that to be really interesting as far as placement is concerned. Just, again, those neat little details about how fillers are designed. So yeah, that's a weird little tidbit if you ask me. Like, why wouldn't they just center it on the card? Nope. They're going to justify it bottom with the existing large discard card. So here is the foil version of it. Make your Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory golden ticket references because this is a golden filler. And that brings us to the X fillers. So here we have solid black borders with a black X. Here we have purple borders with a black X. And this is actually a really good opportunity to show you guys something that I've noticed between the various X fillers. All of the X's on every single variant of the X fillers, this version, and the versions that I'll show you, the X's are different. They're at different intersecting angles, they're different widths, they're at different lengths. So you can see that the X here is fatter than the X here. Its distance from the edges here are different than the distance from the edges there. And its angle here is different than the angle here. I find that to be really interesting. It shows us that every time they make an X filler, they design it from scratch. Here is the X Island filler from Strixhaven. This one is really interesting, and I've got a blog post about this particular filler showing how this particular X was designed, showing some behind the scenes Photoshop things. You could see very loosely in this video, maybe I could get it to focus. Yeah, you see that waviness there. That is an artifact from like brush spacing in Photoshop. So this is a really cool filler. I think it's beautiful. Yeah. Here is another gorgeous X filler. Again, the angle, the thickness, the length, all different than the other versions of X's there. This is solid black with a knockout for a foil X. Knockout is the printing term for blank space, negative space. This is from the Fire and Lightning Precon deck, and this is also the only known copy of this particular filler in existence, normal magic back. This filler here, this has got another X on it, and you can see the back is all sorts of funky, weird, messed up. This is actually the back. This is the front. This filler here is incredible. This is an alternate 4th edition filler. This is one of the versions that exist out there. There are 2 known versions of this filler that exist, and of this particular filler, there are 2 existing copies. We know that it's alternate 4th edition because when we look at the core, it's got a black core as opposed to a blue core. And when we look at the card under magnification, it shows a stochastic printing pattern, which is what alternate 4th edition has as opposed to the rosette patterns that we expect to see with our normal magic cards. So this filler has this beautiful cyan, 50% cyan border. It's got a back that has no black and a big old chunky black X. This filler is absolutely beautiful. and one of my prized possessions in my filler collection. Now, this filler here is the classic M filler. When I started collecting fillers, I never thought I was going to own one of these. It was kind of like this high-end filler that I didn't think was achievable. And when I first got it, it was such a wonderful experience. This is one of the coolest looking fillers out there, if you ask me. It's got that iconic Magic M. It's got a wonderful level of contrast. I'll take it out of the sleeve real quick, see if we could show it on camera. You could actually see a little faint impression of a circle around the M. That is on all of them. Now, there is a line on librarities about there being different variants of this filler, like one without that circle, one with the circle. I actually have never seen the one without the circle. I'm not sure if it exists, and I think that it's kind of a rumor that it exists, probably from people not being able to tell that there's actually that circle there. But every single M filler that I've seen, when you look at it out of a sleeve and under bright light, you could see that circle around it. Now this filler here, you could barely just see it because of the sleeve. I'm going to take it out of the sleeve. This is the Super Dark M filler. These are exceptionally rare. I think there's maybe about like 10 or so copies of this known to exist. Really difficult to identify because as you can see, when it's in a sleeve, it's actually much more difficult to kind of see what's going on. So a lot of times this gets confused with a solid black filler. But this is a beautiful filler, really underappreciated if you ask me, and also exceptionally rare. Now we have the gorgeous white M filler. Some people call this the gray M filler. I call it the white M filler because the M itself is white. This is another exceptionally rare M filler. I think it's beautiful. I think it stands out. It's got a really high aesthetic appeal. And it is also insanely rare. So, complete gem of my collection. I'm super happy to own this particular filler. Now, this one is freaking legendary. This is the pixelated M filler. This is the only known copy of this filler, and as you can see, it's got a pixelated version of the M on it. When you look at this card and scans, there's actually a lot of really cool pixelated detail in the M itself. You could see some like gradient variations. You can see it in person too, but it's not really showing up very well on video. This filler is beautiful. I think I opened this filler, or maybe it was the white M filler at the end of my last filler video. But this thing is the gem of my filler collection. This thing is beautiful. Never thought I'd own it. And I will cherish it forever. Now this filler right here is really interesting. As you can see, it's very tiny. It's solid white. And it's got a quote-unquote normal Magic back. I say quote-unquote because it's actually got the alternate 4th edition back. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There we go. You can see that the A doesn't have that light area. It's like a dark area on the A. This is from the World's Smallest Deck product. And this is a filler from that particular product. So when I say size matters as far as filler variants, this is exactly what I am talking about. Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got our oversized fillers. So we've got a blank filler on the front with a plain chase back. These things are really cool. They used to be a lot more common than they are now. They're pretty hard to find. I think they kind of found their forever homes. This particular filler is from Arch Enemy. So solid black front, Arch Enemy back. This is a Commander oversized filler. You can see it's got that Commander back, foil discard. Now, actually something that I just realized this second is that the orientation of the word discard is in the non-foil orientation. It is from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. So here's another rule breaker. Never consistent. That's why fillers are always interesting. And here is yet another Commander filler. This one just says blank in bold text, but it's got that normal Commander oversized back. So that's it for the normal fillers that I have to show. Let's go into a few more types of fillers that I have. And the first of which are playtest fillers. So sheets of playtest cards actually had blank spots on them for collation and various reasons. This particular one is believed to be from Ice Age. And we can tell that from the particular stock that it's on. And this particular one has really solid provenance. So we know it's just not a piece of construction paper from the early 90s. We know that this is actually a playtest filler. Here is another playtest filler. This one is from Spectral Chaos, which we could tell from the back. And here's another Spectral Chaos filler. Also, the second version of the back. I forget which one is version 1 and version 2. Different rounds of Spectral Chaos playtesting. I'm sure Keith will chime in and correct me if I'm wrong on which one is which. But we have 2 versions of the Spectral Chaos fillers from various iterations of playtesting. Now, here we have a Gamma playtest filler directly from the collection of Joel Mick. And you'll notice it says, "You have been fucked." The story behind this is that playtesters were upset about accidentally getting blank cards in their playtest piles. So as a joke, they've added this text, "You have been fucked," to the sheet, so that whenever someone did end up getting one of these blank cards, they got this wonderful little joke. So this is a playtest filler with a cheeky little message on it. And that gets me into some of my other fillers. Here we have a Miscut discard filler that shows part of another card on it, which is really cool. You can see it on the back as well. So fillers themselves are not exempt from regular misprints, just like normal Magic cards. And I'm not going to show all of my misprinted fillers, just a few select ones. So here's a horizontally miscut discard card. Now here is a normal Magic card that is horizontally miscut, but we can see that it's all solid black here. When we flip it over to the back, we actually see another card. What that means is that this is a discard card right over here. So here is a normal card miscut into a discard, which is also part of my filler collection. I've got a whole page of cards that are miscut into fillers. I'm not going to show them all, just this one and this one. Here is one that is miscut into a drop 3 barcode filler. Again, you can see it on the back, and we can see our barcode on the front. As far as cards that are miscut into barcode fillers, the majority that I've seen have actually had the barcode filler on the bottom. This is one of the few that I've seen where the barcode is on the top, which I find to be really interesting. And as far as misprint fillers are concerned, this one is actually from a make-ready sheet. This is from the legendary quadruple printed Commander deck that was newsworthy, made it onto like Kotaku and whatnot. So we can see both sides are double printed, but this side is a discard filler with a Magic back overlaid on top of it. And I love how you could see the Magic back inside the discard. Even when you look at it in the light, you could see the Magic back in the solid black. And I just think this is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful filler. Let me put this back in the sleeve before I keep going. And that brings me to some of my non-Magic the Gathering fillers. I'm not going to show every single non-Magic the Gathering filler I have. I've just put together a small selection of some of my favorites. This one, I think you could see why, is one of my favorites. I don't care much for the product that it's on. I'm not really much of a wrestling fan, but the front of this is absolutely incredible. I just love this checkerboard pattern, just in CMYK. I think it stands out absolutely beautifully. Here is another CMYK filler, and if we want to see what it's from, tough luck, it's just CMYK on both sides. So we don't really know what exactly this is from, but I love this filler. Here's another one that I think has really high aesthetic appeal. This is from Keyforge, the Richard Garfield game that took off for a little while but never really stuck. So we got this nice little QR code on the front and back. We've got some printing information on the bottom here, some random arrows, and this like safety pattern, orange and yellow stripes. I love it. I think this thing looks really incredible. This was actually gifted to me by the wonderful Shannon Nelson. Shout out Shannon. Thank you so much for adding this filler to my filler collection. I absolutely love it. Here is another Keyforge filler from the wonderful Shannon Nelson. Another solid X, so nice big old pink X on our Radiant Argus the Supreme deck filler. And on the deck list side, we also have a big old pink X. That brings us into this filler here. This is a solid yellow filler with some darker yellow borders, partial borders on the bottom and right hand side, and it is actually a Pokemon filler. Pokemon has a bunch of really cool fillers. I think fillers have really started to pick up in Pokemon, and some of them command like really insane prices. So I've picked up a few of them whenever I think I'm getting a good deal, and I thought this one was really cool, so I picked it up. Here's another Pokemon filler. As you can see, it says blank. Normal Pokemon back. And one of the interesting things about the Pokemon fillers, I don't know if it's really going to show up on this one. No, I would need a normal Pokemon filler to show off. Okay, I'm not going to talk about what I was just going to say. But here's just a really cool Pokemon filler. It says blank. And the last filler that I have to show you guys is a albino front with a Pokemon back. Well, okay, normal Pokemon back. It's also got a back on the front, and the front is albino. Don't know if this is actually a filler or not. It could be a make-ready, but I think most of the Pokemon community accepts it as a filler, and it is in the filler section of my binder, so I figured that would be a cool thing to show off. I actually realized that I forgot some Magic the Gathering fillers to include in this video. And this is yet another type of filler that exists in Magic the Gathering. So this particular filler here is on a Godbook sheet. Godbooks are printed out versions of a complete set used for various purposes, used for design review and feedback. And when, again, like normal fillers, there's not enough spaces on a sheet to fill a sheet, sometimes they put in a blank filler card. So on this particular God book, is from Onslaught, we have this really cool Wizards of the Coast filler design. And I've got this other one here from Champions of Kamigawa, which again has the same Wizards of the Coast, but it's a solid black card and with a little white knockout for the Wizards logo. And I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. That is a pretty comprehensive overview of my filler collection. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of unique fillers here. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, feel free to post those in the comments. Be sure to check out misprintedmtg.com for all sorts of misprint information. And like, subscribe, all the YouTubey stuff. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time.